Here's a reality that's basic to understanding advocacy, and that is that people who are outside libraries have different perceptions of libraries and librarians from the insiders. That is, the people who work in libraries or serve on library committees or on library boards. The consultant and popular speaker Joan Fry Williams calls those on the outside civilians. If we as insiders don't know and understand these perceptions, we're not in a very good position to influence the civilians. In fact, we could sound to them as if we're speaking a foreign language. They just can't hear our story. Now that's not very helpful when we're trying to get their support. I'm going to share with you a selection of research on the perceptions of public libraries and other kinds of libraries done in various English-speaking countries. This selection of research has been done by organizations like OCLC, the Pew Internet and American Life Project, the Carnegie UK Trust, the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries, and others. These are all referenced in the readings for the week. It's important for advocates to know this research and to let it guide our talk and our actions. The more you know about the perceptions of your own community, the more informed and effective your advocacy is going to be. This is particularly true for the perceptions of your decision makers, where you really need to know their starting points. So the following research is going to be most useful then when you combine it with local intelligence. First, although patterns of use are definitely changing, people do love, use, and value libraries. Did you know that Americans go to libraries of all types more than 3 times more often than they go to movies? Here's a quote from Canada. Canada, a country of 35 million. There were, in 2010, 310 million in-person visits to libraries. This and other measures of use are in a report done for the Canadian Library Association by Schrader and Brundin. Now that's high use. Public libraries are better than Congress, baseball, and apple pie, say Americans. That's what one writer wrote for The Atlantic magazine after reading a 2013 Pew Internet survey about perceptions of libraries in the U.S. and looked at some other polls. A fanciful article. It's fun to read. Now, love doesn't pay the bills, but it certainly is a distinct asset when many institutions in society, especially tax-supported institutions, are so clearly unloved. In 2006, Public Agenda in the United States took a, quote, fresh look at public and leadership attitudes about libraries in the 21st century in a report called Long Overdue. Americans were loud and clear about how highly they trust and value their public libraries. They gave their communities high grades for providing well-run libraries, ranking them ahead of police and schools, actually. They see the library as an important service for children in neighborhoods. 80% of them said all children need a library. They believe free internet access in the library to be an essential service for low-income residents. 80% of them commended their libraries for well-maintained buildings and safe environments. They value their librarians as friendly and knowledgeable. They judge the library to be a careful spender of public funds. That, in this environment, is gold. 2 surveys in 2013 by the Pew Internet and American Life Project showed Americans to be overwhelmingly supportive of libraries and their services. 94% of them described libraries as warm and friendly. Library assistance was important to 76%. 75% said they valued having a quiet, safe place. Use of libraries intensifies during hard times. And in an OCLC study in 2010, they found that Americans use libraries more often and more intensively after the 2008 recession, both to advance job readiness and job search and for leisure. Americans who were badly affected, who were harmed by the 2008 recession, were even more enthusiastic about libraries and librarians. In Canada, the Institute for Citizen-Centered Services ran a series of surveys over the last 10 years to evaluate satisfaction with various services, particularly services provided by various levels of government. Now, Canadians over the years of those surveys have ranked the public library to be the best of all non-emergency service providers in both the public and the private sectors. Better than banks, better than grocery stores, airlines, municipal governments, and many other prominent service providers. That is, again, a very strong endorsement of service satisfaction. A survey done for the Federation of Ontario Public Libraries in 2010 showed that membership and use had remained as high as they had been 5 years before, and that even though people were going to the library more often digitally, the number of in-person visits had not gone down. And Ontario residents still valued the public library and all of its traditional services. However, there was a change in the perception of the future importance of the public library as more information is accessed online. And those who were more optimistic about the future of the library were also those people who were more tied to its past, including senior citizens and people who didn't have internet access at home. Card holding numbers are very high across North America. Now that's voting with our feet, isn't it? These figures are arrived at by different methods, these figures that I'm going to share with you, but they certainly give us a good indication. For example, in an online survey in 2010 by OCLC, it was reported that 75% of American information consumers have a library card. In Ontario, Canada's largest province, 68% of adults report that they are public library card holders. In the state of Victoria, in Australia, 48% are public library members. These members, we're told, could fill the Melbourne cricket ground more than 25 times over. These studies attest to the love that people have for their libraries and to the high rates of library membership and library use. Why do advocates need to know this? Because the decision makers, those people who decide how much financial support the library is going to have, always have to make difficult choices. And chances are they don't know much about that visceral bond between people and their libraries, or all these volumes of use and membership. Now, we know from research and from our own experience that libraries tend to exist below the radar of decision makers. So we have to anticipate that certain amount of invisibility as an issue with evidence that we can vouch for. We especially have to counter the assumption held by many that libraries, well, they're on their way out. They lack relevance in the digital age, or that, well, no one goes there anymore. A second major theme of these studies of perceptions is that people believe that libraries are important to their communities and to themselves. In a 2013 Pew Internet and American Life study, 91% of Americans said that public libraries were important to their communities, and 76% reported that libraries were important to them, that is, to themselves and to their families. The Carnegie UK Trust in 2012 reported similar themes, although somewhat lower numbers, depending on the jurisdiction. Up to 76% of British residents regarded the library as either essential or very important to the community. Even people who had not used a library in the previous year believed that libraries were important to their community. However, as in the United States, somewhat lower percentages of British residents, that is up to 47%, considered libraries to be very important to themselves. Now, the fact that people rank the importance of the library to the community higher than they do the importance to themselves is quite revealing. One point that we can take home from this is that even those who don't feel dependent on the library themselves do understand that the library is crucial to others in their community and that's part of their value. Now this brings me to From Awareness to Funding, a study done by OCLC in 2008. That report found that the biggest supporters of libraries are not actually the members. In fact, the biggest supporters of libraries are civically active people who believe that the library transforms lives and has huge impacts. What an eye-opening study. Up to that time, library people had been assuming that the biggest users were also the biggest supporters. So in expecting these frequent users to be the people who spoke up for the library and turned up to vote for it, they had actually been barking up the wrong tree. I'm going to be talking about this study in a later video. So we are seeing reasonably consistent perceptions of the importance of libraries to communities on both sides of the Atlantic. In a sense, we could infer that people consider libraries to be among the defining features of their communities. We certainly see this conviction evident in the banners of Save the Library campaigns when there is a threat to a library's continued existence. This perception of the importance of libraries to communities is not limited to public libraries, but there are fewer studies of other types of libraries, such as academic or corporate. People do love and use and value their libraries, but how much do they really know about them? And what does the answer to that question mean for our advocacy? We're going to examine that question in the next part, what they don't know.